A quick disclaimer. Green Team received an arc of The Witch Roads by Kate Elliott, courtesy of NetGalley and Tor Books. We thank them for the early copy for review. All opinions are our own. The Witch Roads releases on June 10th, 2025. Hope you enjoy the episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Green Team of the Legendarium. I'm your host, Befuddled Panda, and I have with me Cesky.
Hey, everybody.
Chesky and Panda are back with another chat on an upcoming new release called The Witch Roads by Kate Elliott. Chesky, you've
Yes,
read from Kate Elliott before, yeah?
I have. Uh-huh.
Awesome. How much have you read from her?
Sadly, not enough. I've read, I think exactly one book.
Oh my god, that's wait, one in addition to this one.
Yeah, one in addition to this one.
Okay. Which one was it? Do you remember?
I read Black Wolves, but
Oh, okay.
unfortunately, it's a sad story
Oh,
about black wolves.
okay. Well, I am pretty new to Kate Elliott. I've seen her books on shelves all the time at bookshops, but never really picked them up except for I picked up like The Servant Mage, which is a novella, and I didn't finish it for some reason. In case any listeners are new to Kate Elliott, here's her official bio, which courtesy of the back of the book if I can. Kate Elliott has been writing science fiction and fantasy for 30 years after bursting onto the scene with Geron. She is best known for her Crown of Stars epic fantasy series and the New York Times bestselling YA fantasy Court of Fives. Elliott's particular focus is immersive world building and centering women in epic stories of adventure amidst transformative cultural change. She lives in Hawaii where she paddles outrigger canoes and spoils her schnauzer. She also has a Patreon. If listeners want to check that out, we'll link it in the show notes. When I saw that she lives in Hawaii, I got really excited because I read the majority of this book while I myself was in Hawaii on vacation. So I felt that like kinship. And also, I think some of this now makes sense in terms of like the world building in this book, and we'll talk about
Mhm.
it when we get to the meat of our discussion. But before we get there, some quick housekeeping things. If you're new to us, hello. Nice to have you here. Thank you for checking us out, and we hope you like what you hear and stick around. If you've been with us for a little while or more, we'd love for you to like, subscribe, follow, comment wherever you catch us from. The engagement really helps out our little pod and honestly gives us that nice dopamine boost. By the way, we also have a suggestion box. If there's a topic or book you want us to consider covering, let us know. Link is in the show notes. And lastly, if you want to get intimate, want to get the deets on what we're up to in real time, join us over on the Legendarium Discord. And you guessed it, link in the show notes. All right, enough of that. So, the Witch Roads will start spoiler free and then move into spoilers. A quick premise of this book. What is it even about? I'm just going to read it because a lot happens in this book, man.
So much that happens in this. It's so like, how do you give it just like a one sentence or two
I
sentence,
know.
like, this is what happens, like, it's so immersive. It's crazy.
Yes, immersive is the key word here. So the blurb goes status is hereditary, class is bestowed, trust must be earned. When an arrogant prince and his equally arrogant entourage get stuck in or letter halt as part of brutal political intrigue, competent and sunny Deputy Courier Ellen, once a child slave meant to shield noblemen for the poisonous Paul, is assigned to guide him through the hills to reach his destination. When she warns him not to enter the haunted spires, the prince doesn't heed her advice, and the man who emerges from the towers isn't the same man who entered. The journey that follows is fraught with danger. Can a group taught to ignore and despise the lower classes survive with a mere deputy courier as their guide? Okay, and also, very important to note, this is book one in the Witch
Yes.
Roads duology. For some reason, I missed the bolded words telling me that this was the first book in a duology. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Chesky,
Mhm.
general thoughts. What were you hoping this would be? Did it meet your expectations? And how did you like it?
You know, that's a big question there. Well, I liked it first off, of course. I thought
Nice.
it was really good, as always with Kate Elliott with her last book. I mean, this is gonna sound silly, but like her characters are just amazing. Like
Mhm.
for the most part, like every character is amazing. And then her world building and her immersiveness to like small details, but also large details is just off the charts, especially in this one. I felt like I was really like it was good. And she really like she kept me to the knowledge of the people in the story, which is
Mm.
like a good thing, but it's also like I want more, sometimes. Like I
Yeah.
want to know what these things are. And she's like, "Well, no, you just have to live with this person because you don't know.
Mhm.
They don't know, so you don't know." But going into it, I kind of thought this is kind of a spoiler thing to say. I thought that our main character might have a bit more. I am not
Okay.
disappointed in the level of we got,
Okay.
but just and more to do with the witch roads in general.
Okay. Okay.
What the title is, but on the whole,
Yeah.
not disappointed by what I didn't get, right? Like I was still very intrigued by all the things I did get.
Yes. A couple of key things here. I think going in, knowing that this is the first book, so it's really the first half of a
Mhm.
complete story is really important
Yes.
because as I was reading, before I realized it was half a book, I was like, this is a lot of setup.
It is a long book.
It is long. It's like, what, 500 something pages? Over 500 pages.
Yeah. I don't know exactly. I don't mean to sound, like, down on it. It was just as I was reading this arc, I was like, "Man, this one, it is a long book," but
Yeah.
it was full and good, but yeah.
She definitely kept me wanting to read. At first, I was like, "I'm not really quite sure how I feel about this. I don't know if, I'm vibing with
Mhm.
the writing and what's going on here." But then I kept going and I got more and more sucked in, and then I felt like it what I would love is I would love to see this get adapted. Like, it would make a really fun video game, I think, where you're able to explore, the different
Yeah.
parts of the world, get to meet the different people and communities, and, just, like, learn the little tidbits and, like, the political intrigue maneuvering, or as a movie or show. I think it's very visual.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna agree with you. I think you could easily turn this into an adaptation. It's kind of got that structure to it already where it's, not that it's a I don't wanna say it's just like it's a lot of travel, but there's a lot of travel, but that can lead to a good movie where you have this simple but well-established kind of plot to follow, and
Right,
we don't necessarily know 100% of it, but we know enough that keeps us interesting. I think I had a little bit similar to you in the beginning. I wasn't sure. I'm like, are we going to focus on this person? Are we going to
right.
focus on this person? Is it this person? Is it some small mix of all three, like or all four?
Yeah.
Like, how am I gonna devote my time here to like knowing who to pay attention to, or like not that sounds bad when I say it that way, but
No, no,
like
yes.
like who's our main character here? Like we kind of know, but we don't. And then
Right.
I think you were a little further behind on me, but I 30-ish%, I think I was like, "Okay, now I'm getting more and more invested in this."
Mhm. Is it what I would hope it to be? I'm gonna have to say no, mostly because I honestly wasn't quite sure what to expect going in. I thought it would be more plot driven. I thought it would be a bit more like, uh, yeah, I think I just
Mhm.
thought it would be more plot forward, whereas my assessment is it's very world building forward and then character forward,
Mhm.
and the plot isn't that complicated.
I expect that in the second one will be almost a little bit backwards of that,
Sure.
where we'll be a lot more plot focused or plot driven
Mhm.
and then character driven since the world building has mostly been done. And I think
Yeah.
obviously there's going to be a little bit or a lot more in the next one. But I think the next one will have more of an interesting
Right.
plot.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it does set it up in such a way where it's like, okay, now it's very much the what's gonna happen next.
Yes.
Whereas for this one, it's they had you're very clear, like there's a destination that they need to get to, right?
Yeah.
What kind of like clued me in, this is really dumb. What kind of clued me in that I'm like, I think this is a series, is that I was like 70-80% into the book and there was still more world building bits like getting dropped, like heavy stuff. It wasn't just like a little small detail. It was like full on because
Yeah, there's one of those last chapters that's like a whole
yeah, like
world
the
building thing, and I
history.
was like, "Oh my gosh, that's, yeah."
Yeah, so, like, for listeners, how this book is structured, first of all, we love chapter titles,
Me too.
when the authors take the time to actually name their chapters, love it. Also, the chapters are short. They're, like, I think, like, 10 pages or so, at most.
Yeah, it's tough to say on an e-reader, but yeah, they're pretty
They're pretty
short
short.
chapters. Yeah.
And then some are quite short because they are, like, interludes of
Yeah.
world building and history. It's like somebody is writing down a history of this land.
I was thinking, do you think that might have worked a little better as, like, an epigraph to every chapter versus, like, a separate chapter? Every, like, because it was like it felt like every 3 or 4 chapters, it would drop one in, and then
Right.
we'd go 3 or 4 chapters of story and then drop another one in. They were a little dry. I'm not gonna I mean, I'm not saying they were, like, horrible, but, like, compared to the story, there's no character in them, and so they feel
Sure.
dry,
Well,
right?
I would argue then that this kingdom,
Mm.
this society is like a character in itself.
It is. It is, but at the same time, I don't know. I mean, do you think it would have worked better, though, if you had more of them as epigraphs versus less spread out?
I actually think it's fine the
Mhm.
way it is. I say that because, like, there is, like, pretty good information that is imparted in those sections, and some
Yes.
of them are, like, a bit lengthy to be an epigraph.
Yeah, oh, they would definitely need to be reworked or something.
Yeah, like, shorten a lot, and I
Yeah.
think part of the immersiveness is, it's like if you're playing a video game and then you find, like, a book or a scroll, right? And then, like, you're
Yeah.
reading that in-world history kinda situation. It felt like that, so
I can't argue with that.
So, overall, I did end up really enjoying it, and the more that I think about it after reading it, the more that I like it, and lucky for us, I understand that the second book comes out later this year. So, there's not too much of a wait for the second half of the story.
Yeah, it was interesting reading if you read the acknowledgments kind of at the very end, she was able to write this because of her patrons, right, on Patreon,
Yes.
right? And so, if she was able to write it all and then go ahead and publish it through Tor, I mean, I think that's great that she's able to take the time to write both and then take it through the publishing process,
Mhm.
right? Whereas a lot of
Mhm.
the times you get book 1 written, gets published, then the author has to scramble to write book
Yeah.
2 or, things like that, so I like it, yeah.
I think, like, the expectation from me is that it wouldn't have that, like, second book syndrome, and plus
Mhm.
it's a duology as opposed to a trilogy or longer,
Right.
like, it would be pretty wrapped up, although, I mean, even though we've only read this first half of the duology, if she did end up wanting to explore this world that she created more
Oh,
and write.
so much more that she
Yeah,
could delve into, like,
it's so
yeah.
rich.
I mean, she can just walk backwards in time and get,
Yeah.
like, hundreds of stories that she's alluded to and set up and created, and then yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or even do, like, a slice of life kind of novella or
Mhm.
short story focusing on just, like, one character that we, came across or a community that we came across, or even just, like yeah, like, Ellen on one of her, trips, monthly courier trips. That would be amazing. So, yeah, I'm actually really excited for, 1, us having read this together, and I have somebody to talk to about this because this book hasn't come out yet. Very soon it will be, but I hope this book, this series gets good reception. I was gonna ask you because I thought you had read more of Kate Elliott. I was gonna ask you, is this book representative of what Eliot's other works are like? Based on what you've read so far, what do you think?
I'll still answer the question as though I know everything. So, from my unbiased, perfect opinion here, this is kind of representative. I think she does generally really good character work and really good world building. The other one I read had a bit more of the pieces moving in play, a bit more of a plot kind of starting and alluding to. That one was a little different though because it was going to be a trilogy
Okay.
and it was, and we had multiple point of views, and so we were
Oh,
cycling
okay.
through those. So this was a little different to me where it was one single point of view, but I felt like her character work matched up to what I remembered, like the feelings of being swept up in these characters and like wanting to know more about them and like following through on them and being like, yeah, this is my character that I want to be with, right?
Yeah.
So I did find it, I think, representative of her work or her standards at least, right?
Yeah. Nice. I was gonna also ask, like, is this a good starting point to get into Kate Elliott's work? And I mean, this is really my starting point, and I'm having a
Yeah.
fine time. So I would say yes.
I don't think it's a bad starting point. I mean, I think the only really bad starting points are like in the middle of series.
Which, I mean, sometimes it works out well, especially if, like, the previous books aren't that great and.
Yeah, but a little bit of context goes a long way in
That's
knowing
true.
why things are and what is going on.
Yes. So, this is kinda hard because it is, like, first half, of a complete story,
Mhm.
but who would you recommend this book
Ooh.
to? Or is there anybody you wouldn't recommend this book to? What
Let's
kind of
see.
readers?
I mean, I don't know if there's anybody if you want really like fast-paced, get to the plot, you want to know everything that's going on behind the scenes, I probably wouldn't recommend this to you right out of the gate.
Mm,
But if
yeah.
you really like your characters and you really like your world building, I mean, I just keep bouncing back and forth between those two things, right? Because I just think they were really excellent in this book. But I think if you like those things, you'll really like this book.
I definitely wanna get more into the characters. To me, I feel like my read on this is the world building was a bit stronger than the character work.
Mhm.
And part of that could be because she did spend so much of her word count on the world building, and the characters were perhaps there would be more in the second half. So I'm kind of reserving judgment a little bit until I'm able to read the second half. But in this first installment, the world building is stronger than the character work to me.
Mhm. So who would you recommend it to then, Panda? Lovers of world building?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you like a world where especially if you like to write fan fiction, if you like being inspired by, somebody else's creation and then wanting to create your own based on that, this is like a good rich place to play with. Honestly, I think that's what Kate Elliott kinda did, like, she played in that sandbox, and who knows, like, how many more notes and stories and little, like, histories, she's written and hasn't been included, in the actual book. And that concludes our spoiler-free discussion of The Witch Roads by Kate Elliott. which releases on June 10th, 2025. Look out for our full spoilers discussion on the Witch Roads coming soon. Thank you for listening.